The Mackinac Bridge Authority will now be called to order. Today's date is November 8th, 2024. Before we start in today's meeting, we have our special guest with us today, our host. Peter, would you like to say a few words before we begin our meeting?
Yes, Chair. Just on behalf of the Sault Ste. Bridge Authority and the International Bridge Administration, I'd just like to welcome the Mackinac Bridge Authority Board and staff to Sault Ste. Marie. And I trust that your time here has been productive, your tours have been well received, and that the facilities have met all your needs for your meetings this week. And if there's anything else that you need during your time or stay, please don't hesitate to ask.
Well, on behalf of the Bridge Authority, thank you for having us here today. It's a beautiful facility, and we certainly enjoyed our tour yesterday with Sue Lott, and we appreciate your great hospitality you've shown us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim, would you call the roll, please?
Chairman Gleason,
Yes, here.
Chair Milliken,
Here.
Director Weifrick,
Here.
Member Fattanti, present. Member Cheeseman,
Here.
Member Aaron's,
Here.
Council Gleason,
Here.
Dan Musser is not.
Yes. I was going to duly note that for the record. Dan has been excused for family personal business today. So if there's nothing to be added or deleted from the agenda, a motion would be in order to accept the agenda as presented.
I so move.
It's been moved and supported that the agenda be accepted as presented. Hearing no discussion on the motion, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anyone from the public wishing to address the Mackinac Bridge Authority on agenda items only? Anyone from the public? Hearing no comments from the public on the agenda items, we will now move to item 3, the acceptance of the minutes meetings. Before you have a list, I don't think it's necessary to go through each and every one of them, but we have 3 meetings from the tolls, fees, and classification subcommittee meetings, 1 from the finance committee meeting, and 2 from the official board meetings that were held in July. What's the board's pleasure?
I just have a question.
Yes.
Do we have full thinking about meeting minutes from the last meeting we had, which I don't think were originally included in the packet?
That's a good point from your tolls, fees, and classification.
Just distributed this morning.
Yes.
Do you want those to
Well,
go in here?
I can look real quick and see what's the date of that.
Well, are we allowed to include them in the next one? They don't have to go on this. You can do it either.
It would have been from October 17th, which I do not see listed, Caroline.
Let's just
Thank you.
wait.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Good point. I appreciate that. Any other comments, questions? Deletions, additions? Hearing none, the motion would be in order to accept all the minutes as presented here.
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
Is there support to the motion? Been moved, supported that the acceptance of all the meeting minutes be approved as presented. All in favor? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Old business. We have update from the paving project. Happy? Welcome and good morning.
Good morning. Okay, thank you, Chairman. Those who don't know me, I'm Matthew McIntyre, the Assistant Bridge Engineer at the Mackinac Bridge. And I'm going to present on the approach span rehab and resurfacing project. Back in July, and there was a thorough update on the results of the 2024 spring construction season. There has been a couple developments, mainly a reducing of scope for the work for next spring. So just to recap on the original plan for the project, we wanted to resurface and deck patch on the north and south approach truss spans, along with on top of the anchor piers, and on the anchor piers to include a new waterproofing membrane. The resurfacing also included the north viaduct and then the replacement of the Pier 34 finger joint with a new modular joint. So with the schedule of the spring, as all of you know, we finished a month late. We didn't open to traffic until June 17th or 19th, 16th. So, and the target was before Memorial Day traffic. So the contractor did not meet that deadline and expressed that he would not be able to meet the deadline to open for Memorial Day this coming spring. And one thing that was lacking from construction this spring was the Pier 34 finger joint replacement. So that was not addressed, and that was pushed to be fully replaced this coming spring. So due to the contractor finishing late, he was assessed liquidated damages, which he has filed a claim to us, which is heading to region review in mid-December. So we'll give you an update on that as that progress progresses. So as I mentioned, the scope is going to be reduced, it has been reduced for spring 2025 to ensure that we open the bridge for Memorial Day traffic. So this new scope is going to include the original plan for the north viaduct, which would be milling, sounding the deck patching, and resurfacing. And in that same area, we will do the full Pier 34 modular joint replacement. We will still be adding a new concrete header onto the vent piers and then resurfacing the anchor piers and applying that waterproofing membrane to protect that integral part of the bridge. So obviously that leaves out the north and south approach trusses from work this coming spring. And we kind of decided to do that because we thought that these were the parts of the bridge that needed the most attention. They were in most need of repair, and we thought that the north and south approach trusses could be delayed until we could get that project going. So for that future project, again, would just be the north and south approach truss resurfacing, deck sounding, and patching. And we don't have a date for that. It hasn't been designed, obviously, so that's just sometime in the future. So to kind of go over what is going to happen this next spring with the new plan. So we will return to a stage 1 traffic configuration, which is the same configuration we found ourselves in this spring. So the northbound lanes will be closed, and this will happen whenever weather allows us to. I've heard that this winter is supposed to be a little worse than last winter, but last winter won't be very hard to beat. So we'll close when weather allows. And the only thing that is going to happen in those northbound lanes is that Pier 34 modular joint will be installed. And that contractor thinks that'll take about a month. So when they are complete with that, we will switch traffic control over to stage 2, which would then close the southbound lanes to the bridge. And we would do the milling, the deck sounding, chipping, deck patching on the north viaduct, and milling on the HMA hand removal on the anchor piers, applying that waterproofing membrane, and then repaving the anchor piers on viaduct, and then also installing the new modular joint at Pier 34. And then all be completed before Memorial. And then just to recap that future project, so that would put us back into stage 2 of traffic control, closing those southbound lanes. And again, the milling, shipping, joint repairs, and deck patching for the approach spans, and then repaving that just like we saw this spring. So I also wanted to highlight what we've been doing internally to assist in this project. The MBA is in charge of traffic control for this past stage and this coming spring. So we did learn some lessons from two-way traffic this spring. We hadn't been in two-way traffic for about 16 years was the last time construction project on the bridge required that. So there were some improvements, some modern updates that needed to happen. We were preparing for whatever could happen, and luckily only minor incidents did happen, so we didn't need that, but lessons were learned. So we're improving our traffic control for this coming year. We've also been moving some conduits that are near the Pier 34 joint, just to give the contractor more room and allow for that installation, and also installing conduit protection just to cover ourselves. And then we're preparing also for the mid-project switch in traffic control, which was not the original plan of the project. We were gonna do northbound closure and then southbound closure, but now we will have to switch mid-season from northbound to southbound. So I think we're prepared to do that too. So we're on track for a good spring. And we'll keep you updated on the progress with everything else. So thank you. If there's any questions, we can take those at this time.
Was it a full 30 days LD charges?
For LD charges, they were charged 17 days, which also included a extension of time that we granted them of 12 days, 11 days. So that's kind of where the
Since
fence is.
it's still approximately $3,000 a day.
It is 10,000 in
10,000.
addition to the MDOT typical 2,000.
12,000.
Oh, that's really increased.
Yeah, gives them incentive.
Yeah.
So
What was the reason they couldn't meet the deadline? Is it a labor issue by chance or?
they cited a labor issue, not having their full crews that they initially had promised, but then it was also different work that they found on the bridge and increased quantities.
Matthew, I think I know the answer to this, but just to confirm, does this follow the normal, like an MDOT contract claim process?
It does, yeah. Which we try to fit ourselves best as we can and fit the roles that we lack in. But in order, yes.
Yeah, so this region review is going through the Superior region, so we're working with, the Superior region, both Mark Mackinac and.
Great,
And Mike Denver, we're working with Mike.
thank you.
I'm assuming the contractor for spring 2025 is already been selected.
Yeah, so it's the same contract, same contractor for both springs. So
Same contract,
same contractor, yeah.
but the work this time obviously is quite a bit less. Than
It
what we
is. Yes.
researched.
Yep, and hopefully most of it will be that modular, well, most of it is the
Yeah.
modular joint work, which is a lot different than what they were working on last spring. So,
And one thing to note on that is part of the reason modular joint was pushed off a year is it was unable to be procured in time. It has since been procured and is actually on site and ready to go, and that was purchased, and that process was with the current contractor, so being able to finish that work with them would be beneficial.
Yeah.
So that's the joint is in Mackinac City right now. There's actually a picture of it in your packet. So we were able to visit and look at it, and it makes us excited.
Well, if there's no further questions, Matthew. Oh, I'm sorry.
I may not have heard correctly, but did I hear you say that they filed a claim for liquidated damages? And if so, help me understand that, because I would have thought it would be
Right, so
adverse to that, we would file the claim.
So because they were late completing the project, we charged them the liquidated damages based on the
Yeah.
contract. And they felt that that was unjust and that they were justified in their needing extra time to complete the work. And we denied their claim at the TSC level of the claim process, that they were entitled to more days and an extension of time. So, and they disagreed with our take on the situation. So it has moved to the next.
Got it. So there's
step in the process.
disputing the claim.
They are. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so, just add a little bit more. So they actually filed extensions of time, for various reasons. There are 3 extensions of time they filed. One, as Matthew said, we did grant 11 days for. They had requested more in that extension, but we felt 11 were justified and granted them those days. And then the other 2, we denied outright. We disagreed with, what they were claiming in their extensions of time. And then they filed a claim in response to us denying those extensions of time. So that's what the claim is. And as Matthew said, we denied it at our level, and now it's moving through the MDOT process to the region.
Thank you both.
So at this point in time, what is being held back financially is the LD charges that we.
Right, they have been charged and that payment has been.
Right.
held.
It's
So,
it's probably paid in full except for the LD charge.
correct. Yep.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Matthew. Very thorough report once all. Okay, Kim, do you want to start with the conference presentations? It had to be a very exciting conference, I would think. with
It certainly was.
World bridge owners coming together.
Yes. So Cole, Matthew and I attended the International Cable Supported Bridge Owners Conference in early October. And you can see in your packet from our smiling faces that we had a great time there. We really did. It was a week-long conference with a section of it. You can see in your packet also, I had Melissa include the agenda because I wanted you to see how cram-packed it was, full of interesting topics. Unfortunately, many of the topics were concurrent, so we couldn't see it all. We would try to split up the day so we could cover each room, but we didn't have, we couldn't see it. But it was a fabulous conference with, the first part of it was owners and consultants and vendors and contractors there, and we were all participating in the conference. And then the last part of the conference, it was for owners only. So there was no contractors or consultants in the last part, which they called a workshop, which was very good. So you can see from the report that I did, the bridges we saw just before we even got to the conference. The conference was at West Point, so we flew into New York and we saw fabulous bridges just on the way to West Point. One of the things, part of the conference was a panel discussion, and I was honored to be asked to be a part of that panel discussion. You can see up at the top of the screen there, the other members of the panel were basically from New York, and these were some high-level engineers from New York that handle huge budgets and hundreds of bridges around the area. And so it was wonderful to represent the Mackinac Bridge on that panel and be able to talk about the successes of things that we do at the Mackinac Bridge. So that was the highlight of my week, actually. And I apologize for some of these slides, but I was capturing these at the conference, taking pictures of them so I wouldn't forget some of the topics. And I just want to present to you a few of the topics that I brought back that maybe we can use at the Mackinac Bridge. We heard presentations from all around the globe, and this one was from the Storebelt Bridge in Denmark, talking about fire protection. They had several incidents where vehicles caught on fire. And of course, as a vehicle pulls over when it needs aid, it pulls over to the side of the road, which makes it closer to the things we don't want to be close to the fire. So the whole idea with their investigation and the work that they did was to protect the main cable and the suspender cables close to the road where they could be impacted by fire. And so this picture shows the installation of the fire protection system down near the road. You can see the, oh yeah, that does work. You can see the fireproof blanket that was put on under a stainless steel shroud to slow down the time that the intense fire would reach the main wires of the cable. And another part of this presentation talked about the cable bands. You couldn't just do this between the cable bands and leave the cable bands alone because the fire could penetrate through there. And so they had to assess the cable band area, and they did that with testing different paints that they could apply that would be fire resistant and things like that. So their project wasn't just to put this on there, they actually did lab testing, and this is a prototype where they put it in an oven, kind of like what we saw on our, where were we downstate when we visited?
Lawrence,
Lawrence Tech.
Yeah, Lawrence Tech. Lawrence Tech had the big ovens, and so it's kind of like that. And so they proved that the treatment that they gave the main cable caused the delay of the intense fire to get temperatures to get to the main wires. So that was one of the things I wanted to remember and bring back. And then this one talks about the hanger links, or as they call them, rocker arms. So those are the links that connect the underlying truss system of the bridge to the tower. And suspension bridges have these rocker links, and they on the Mackinac Bridge, we also have those, and they're connected with pins. And the whole idea of that link is the rocker link rotates on the pins, top and bottom. And so it allows the movement of the truss system to expand with weight and temperature, and allows it to move freely. Well, sometimes these pins can lock up. And so in this case, they did this investigation where they installed sensors on the rocker links to see if those pins were locked, causing bending stress in that link plate. And so they installed sensors near the top and the bottom so that they could, strain gauge sensors, so they can see if there's undue bending in that link. It's not supposed to have any bending. And so they determined, this shows the sensors in place there. It shows those sensors, and they did determine that there was bending stresses that weren't supposed to be in their links, and so they ended up replacing them all. And so I brought this back because we are investigating doing a similar thing. We have some of our link plates that make a knocking sound when the bridge is expanding or contracting, and so we haven't found. We replaced one quite a while ago, even before I started. I think it was in the late 80s maybe. But we haven't replaced any others, but this will tell us if that link is bending where it's, in a way it's not supposed to be bending. So we're investigating doing this ourselves. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, this is also at the store about bridge, and I'm sorry you can't see that picture, but they have a series movable barriers that happens pretty much automatically on their bridge. And so if they have a crash and they need to get traffic off of that side and onto the other side, they can implement this system that moves traffic all the way over to the other side. They clear their bridge, and then they put these things in place, and the barriers slide around. And it was just quite interesting. And we thought, boy, we would love to have something like that on our bridge. So this is like a placeholder for us to think about. And the one nice thing is we've been given access to these presentations after the conference. We can always go back to those, and we have the contact information of people that have done this stuff before, so that if we do decide to do something like that, we can go right to them and get the information. So just wonderful information for us to have. So I don't want to steal any thunder from Cole and Matthew, but I do want to thank you for letting us go to this conference, and thank the federal funding training funds. That's a wonderful way of getting us to experience some of these things. So it was a great conference. Oh, I have one more slide in here. The next one in 2026 is in Malmö, Sweden, and that's the Harrison bridge there, so, which is a beautiful, another beautiful bridge.
Thank you, Kim. So just to reiterate what Kim has already said about, just what a fantastic conference and experience this was. We really appreciated the opportunity to go. I believe they said 14 bridges in 14 different countries were present at the conference. So, it really is a global community, hosted at beautiful West Point. To me, I'm kind of a history buff, so that was thrilling just in itself to get to visit West Point and learn about a little bit of the history there. It's actually the first institution that had a formal engineering education in the United States. So got to geek out about that a little bit as well. And really just attending in person, I think that was really, like I said, it was great group of people, specialists throughout the world. And as Kim said, there were a ton of great topics formally presented on, but some of my favorite lessons learned were actually in the discussions we had at dinner and lunch. We spoke with one engineer from the UK named Mark Bulmer, who had been present at a couple of suspension bridge constructions, original constructions in Asia. And he shared a story with us about they constructed this fairly new bridge. And during the first cable inspection, they found one cable was much more deteriorated than the other. And, you know, when you have components that are the same age, constructed around the same time, in the same environment, it makes you wonder what's going on here. They said they did some studies and different things, and what it ended up being was when they wrapped that cable compared to the other one, it was the rainy season, as well as they did a little bit different procedure when wrapping the cable and actually trap some moisture in there. And I just thought that was, you know, very interesting, and it kind of mimics, you know, my experience in my career that, you know, design's important, but it just, you know, every aspect of a project's important. You know, you could design a perfect plan set and something goes wrong, you know, one day you get a bad stock of cement powder or something, and can lead to problems. So just, you know, due diligence throughout the life of a project is just so important. And really, especially with these large scale cable supported bridges, you know, there's not a ton of them in the world. So coming together as a community is really where you can get to share those things and lessons learned and build off of, you know, that pre-knowledge, because a lot of times you don't know until it happens to somebody. So a great conference, got to, you know, develop connections, as Kim said, a lot of different groups. One thing that we got to do that was thrilling for me, because I enjoyed getting out in the field, was the reason the conference was at West Point was its proximity to the Bear Mountain Bridge, which is shown here, a beautiful suspension bridge that actually is celebrating its centennial this year, so 100 years old, which is pretty impressive. Again, a testament to these structures and the importance of maintaining them and extending their life as key crossings. And they had some stations out there that they had set up to showcase some of the structural monitoring they've been doing on the Bear Mountain and some of the work they've completed. They've, you know, used the proximity to West Point to tap into them as a resource. So actually, it's shown here in this photo. This was a professor from West Point, Dr. Tom Matarazzo, who was discussing some research he's doing with West Point students on the movement of the bridge in relation to traffic and capturing that movement in real time. You know, something exciting. That data could be useful, not just on suspension bridges, although they do tend to move more than other bridges, but on bridges throughout. So I thought that was a really interesting technology. Another presenter talked about some strain gauging. You can see this cable here. So they actually attached this small wire, and that wire was capable of acoustic monitoring as well as strain gauging. So we have done strain gauging on the Mackinac Bridge. It tends to be targeted in, you know, strain gauging is fairly small. You're usually monitoring a crack or something. With this technology, this whole wire essentially was transmitting real-time strain information, as well as acoustic information in how the cable was moving. And it's something that, you know, down the road, we are likely to do more strain gauging again at the Mackinac Bridge, and this might be an option to look into. So really great presentations. Again, a beautiful historic bridge that we enjoyed getting the chance to go crawl around a little bit. So one of the topics that was actually at a session I got to facilitate was on inspection access. And I enjoyed this presentation quite a bit just because this is something that does affect every bridge. It's not just complex bridges, long span bridges. It could be, you know, a small pedestrian bridge that or it could be a sign. It's not limited to bridges, but these structures need to be monitored, need to be inspected. And it's not always the easiest. Sometimes you do have to, climb around, get your hands dirty. So getting to hear how some of these other groups are increasing their access. A lot of times in more modern bridges, they're taking access into account that they maybe didn't when they originally constructed, bridges like the Mackinac in the 1950s. So thankfully, there is equipment and different things out there. So shown here is actually the statewide bridge reach all crew that come up and help us every year with our annual inspection. And really, without this unit, it's difficult to get down and inspect those sections of the bridge. So the MBA is in the process of purchasing one of these units to have at the bridge at all the time. It likely won't eliminate getting a statewide crew to help us with the annual inspection, but having that will really help out as far as getting down and looking at some of the areas that are a little harder to access, and even being able to utilize this machine to do some of the cleaning and repair type work that we're able to do off of it. Another aspect that the Mackinac Bridge has is our traveler system and our work platform, which you can actually see from here that most people don't get to see when they're driving across, but a lot of our work actually takes place down here. And this was an interesting topic because it seemed like the community was slightly split on the topic of traveler systems. Other big bridges tend to have them. And it sounded like some were getting away from them and actually removing them. And, they are mechanical equipment out in this, some severe weather and different things there. But, so there were some bridges that said we don't want to utilize them anymore. It tended to be the newer bridges that maybe didn't have as much maintenance. Because there are other bridges in the same boat as us where we utilize this every day, almost in the maintenance season, the system. And like us, there was a bridge that's kind of doubling down on their traveler system. Like us, we're in the process of starting a rehabilitation project on our traveler systems where these are very important for us, both in inspection and completing work. So we're actually going to go in, update some things, relocate some of the mechanical equipment, make it easier to maintain, maybe try to make some more parts plug and play, so to speak, so that we can have spare parts ready to go. If something's wrong, we can just take it up and put it in a new one. So it's an exciting project, and it was interesting to see here, what some other bridges are doing with their traveler systems. Another topic, which is interesting today since it's so windy, but this is something a little more unique to these big structures is dealing with the wind. And, the Mackinac Bridge, obviously we famously deal with the wind here in Michigan, but, these other bridges do as well. Members from MTA were actually present at the conference, and I tried to get a video in here a couple of years ago. I would recommend looking it up. The Verrazano Bridge underwent some movement, that kind of caused a panic, maybe more so than it should have, because structurally it was okay. The bridge is designed to move, but it was a little unsettling. And it's an interesting video. I recommend looking it up, but what they found was actually they were doing a painting project on the bridge. And along with that, they had containment, different tarps and different equipment out on the bridge that actually captured the wind and induced this movement into the bridge. And I thought that was a great lesson to be learned, because we have done painting projects and we will do more painting projects in the future on the bridge. So just need to keep that in mind. Not that we haven't in the past, but it can happen anytime. So as everyone knows, we do have our restrictions in place in regards to high winds, but that's more for the safety of traffic. I got to brag a little bit when I presented to the group on the aerodynamic performance of the Mackinac Bridge. It is, I would put it against any bridge out there in the world. Basically during design, they introduced a lot of different key factors as I'm sure many of you are already familiar with, but one being the open grading system, as well as the very large stiffening truss that allows the wind to go through, and as well as just get the bridge stiffness. And it's interesting because this is a photo from some wind tunnel testing we had done on the bridge a few years ago with a company called RWDI out of Toronto, and it's funny to hear because a lot of other bridges have done the same thing. I know the Gordie Howe has as well. They're a very well-renowned wind tunnel testing company, but one thing that they talked about at the conference was a bridge that had more trouble with the wind, didn't perform maybe quite as well as we did. They found that one strategy they were able to do to reduce the flutter on the bridge was actually to increase the height of their median barrier. And that was interesting because the Mackinac Bridge does not have a median barrier right now, as you know, but the plans are in place when we do the deck replacement, likely to add one. And, there are concerns about, is that going to reduce the wind on the bridge? But so it's good to hear that not only did it not affect it by increasing the height and actually having a taller median barrier, it actually reduced that flutter that these bridges were experiencing, just allowed the wind to flow over it, definitely broke up that movement. And we also did have a section studied with a median barrier in place, and the bridge still performed very well. So not that we were too concerned, but I thought that was interesting. So again, just it was a wonderful conference. I wanted to thank the MBA and board and MDOT for allowing us to attend, as well as the New York Bridge Authority. They kind of host this year, and of course the Military Academy at West Point and ICSBOA and other presenters. So well worth it to me. I felt like we brought a lot of great knowledge back with us that I think we can implement at the Mackinac Bridge and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Question.
Yep.
Parsons Engineering inspects the Mackinac Bridge.
Yep.
Does Parsons Engineering inspect any of the other 13 bridges that were represented out there?
They do. They have done work, I believe, on the Verrazano Narrows, Brooklyn. Yeah, they do work pretty well, on a lot of these bridges. I actually was coordinating with a bridge that wasn't at the conference, but a bridge in Portugal through Parsons on, they were doing a wind testing and we're looking for wind information. So I was actually just through Parsons and not actually through this, was able to coordinate with them. So there were, as Kim said, the first 2 days were open to consultants and companies other than owners. And there were a lot of great representatives there. So members from Parsons, HDR, HNTB, AECOM, a lot of good companies out there that have done a lot of work.
So we're in good company.
Yeah.
Good. Another quick question. You mentioned the potential for a median barrier. Do you think you'd want to do the wind tunnel testing if we were to propose that?
Yeah, so that would be, so we did it as part of the 2020 deck study. We had some wind tunnel testing, and that was part of the scope of that study was looking ahead at the deck replacement. So we did investigate several alternatives about what would that look like, in part to get some budgetary information. How much is that going to cost related to the MBA's finances and preparing for that big project. So we did some wind tunnel testing. I would say as we get closer and the design starts moving, we definitely want more wind tunnel testing, because the last thing we want is we have a bridge that performs amazingly well. We don't want to, introduce anything that will negatively impact that. But goes back to the lessons learned. I'd rather learn it ahead of time than after the fact.
Excellent.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you, Paul. Very good report.
We'll just quickly touch on some other topics that we learned about in the inspection, but just real quick, I don't have a slide on it, but I know Cole touched on the structural health monitoring that they presented on at the conference. I know I was in the picture there on the Bear Mountain Bridge talking with the professor, but as like a mechanical engineer, that was very exciting for me to learn about the modal analysis and just more things that we can do on the Mackinac, which we can't. So it made me very excited. But probably the most interesting session that I went to is on cable inspection. So right now, our inspection intervals are dictated on this NCHRP report, which AASHTO adopts, which was originally published in 2004. So the bridge community for a while has been saying it's needed an update, which they have pretty much a final version of it, which will be published, they said at the conference sometime this fall, so it's getting very close. And most of the engineers that were on that panel writing this report were at the conference presenting on it. So that, and all the minds were in the room. I was honored to be in the room too. But so the big difference that I found was there was a new analysis method to evaluate the cable strength. Before, the report kind of took the cable, the whole length of the cable as a whole. And in the new report, it really focuses on that different panel points, different sections of cable, different health gradings. So it's just because one section of cable might grade a little less than another section, doesn't deduct from the entire grading of the cable. So another thing this report does is it outlines the process to determine the inspection intervals. So currently, we're at a 10-year inspection interval. And every time we've had a cable inspection on the Mackinac Bridge, we've found our cables, our wires to be in good condition. And because of that, that's kind of led us to take the approach of the less we need to open up the cables, the less damage we're doing to the cables and preserve their life further and further. So we are kind of hoping to see in this new report that we might need to open up the cables less. We didn't really see that. But the main takeaway for the Mackinac Bridge, we're gonna still have a cable inspection every 10 years as part of this new report. But there's gonna be less panel points selected that will need to be opened up. There'll be more samples taken from those panel points, but there's gonna be less opening up the cable. So we do appreciate that. The new report, so like I said, the new version will be published sometime in this fall. AASHTO will adopt it, and we are honored actually. So on the cover of the AASHTO report, it will feature a picture of the Mackinac Bridge. So we selected a couple different photos that they can choose from, but they're all good. So that's just a great honor in the bridge community to be the cover photo. So
What's the circulation of that report?
so AASHTO would just be national,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
Actually, just all the national, United States regulations and everything, so. Every bridge in the US.
It's the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. It's all of our peers in the 50 states plus DC.
And I will add that many big suspension bridges overseas use these guidelines to do their inspections, and so it'll go wider than just the US.
And not only was our picture going to be on the cover, but also Kim was invited in the panel for this report development, this report. So we did have a firsthand role in this development, so we're very honored. Another session that I went to covered, or several sessions, was the replacement of cable components. So mainly the suspender cable replacements and hanger replacements. Probably the big suspender cable replacement that they presented on the Ambassador Bridge in Detroit. There was presentations on that. And the discussions included calculations for the length of each suspender, because as you can probably imagine, each suspender is very unique in a different length. And in the original plans of all bridges, I found out there's calculations on how to, depending on what kind of wire you use, if you're using a new cable or if you're using a lot of suspension bridges. I knew this was the case for Mackinac, but reuse the cable that was from the catwalk for the original spinning of the cable, they reused that cable as the suspender cable. So there's a different calculation for if you're gonna reuse that cable or if you're gonna use new cable. So that was part of the discussion along with, right, as I touched where the cable comes from. So, and then hanger replacement, as Kim mentioned, those would be the components right next to the, right on either side of the tower that connect the superstructure to the tower that kind of acts in place of suspender cables in those locations, just because they're so close to the tower, you wouldn't want that long of a cable stretching the length and possibly banging on the tower. So a little different, but they do the same thing essentially. So the main takeaway for the Mackinac Bridge from these discussions was to develop an internal replacement procedure for both of these to allow quick completion and a quick turnaround time, as Kim mentioned, with fires and other possibilities for things to go wrong. If we had materials on site, because all of these are very unique, the lead times would most likely be the limiting factor of we could potentially real bridge. So if we had those on site, that would be a great benefit for us in Punk. And then lastly, this seemed to be the most popular discussion topic at the conference, was cable dehumidification, which isn't really on our near future plans of the Mackinac Bridge. I know we have plans for the near future for anchorage dehumidification, but not so much cable dehumidification. But it definitely gave us some thinking points to bring to the anchorage dehumidification project, but also just seeing the difference in adding a dehumidification system to an existing bridge versus designing a new bridge and installing it from the get-go. There's obviously a lot of challenges with adding one later on, but a lot of these bridge owners that were at the conference did it, so it was interesting to hear their perspective. But the big thing for us was possible tests we can do and to gather data in our next cable inspection, possibly, since the cable will already be open, maybe to get just throwing one test out there, what was called a blow test, just seeing how much air you can push through, how much dry air you can push through a cable for a certain length. And that would really, if we were to go the direction of installing a cable dehumidification system, aid in the design, how many injection sleeves you would need, how many exhaust sleeves you would need. Because that seemed to be the biggest hiccup, was they didn't really know what their bridge was capable of or what they needed to design for. So the more data we can collect beforehand, like Cole was saying, see the problems before they happen. So a lot of useful information. So again, I thank you for allowing us to go and talking with other bridge owners. And like we've said here, I can't express enough of how helpful it was for Mackinac Bridge and our bridge. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Any questions of Matthew before we move on? Director?
Maybe for, did you guys have to run into anybody from McIntyre Bridge Authority or any help folks?
Did not. We ran into one consultant or contractor that was designing the orthopedic deck for the Quarry Hall. So I talked to him briefly, but no.
Then backing up to Kim's, you mentioned the air piece. for
Yeah.
Lane closures. Is that like a physical barrier?
Yeah.
Okay, right, I had in my mind, I don't know if you've driven the Kennedy with the counterflow express lanes in Chicago, where they have the gates
Oh,
that come on. I didn't know if it was something that simple or is it?
part of it was gates, automatic gates, and part of it was a barrier that moved
Yeah.
over, so.
Basically, kind of like how we were configured into, where we moved northbound traffic to southbound. It would do that automatically. So, yeah, the gates would come down, stop traffic, so that barrier would move, and
Okay.
And then they'd have the two-way traffic out the one side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it was.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice report from operators. We appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we have a security update and it has to be done in a closed session, so in order to enter into the closed session now. If somebody was I understand that.
That's right. Yeah, Todd asked me to come up here. Specifically this piece.
You've been asked to come up with this piece?
Yeah, but,
For Todd Beckler?
yes, sir.
So Todd Beckler is MDOT Safety and Security,
Okay,
and you're
I'm the emergency management and hazardous material specialist for him.
what's your name?
Tom
You're
Fair.
Tom, right? I've seen you on email.
I can certainly understand why I question it. And
Yeah,
thank
Oh, yeah,
you.
I've been here, sure, so.
Didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Why didn't Todd say something?
I
I-
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, you can imagine how I thought, Kim. So, okay, you all set then? Melissa? reports. We'll start with our chair of the finance committee. Chair Milliken. Good morning, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Mackinac Bridge Authority Finance Committee met yesterday afternoon. Member Musser was an excused absence, and the chair appointed member Aaron to complete the finance committee membership yesterday, along with member Cheeseman. We had the Michigan Treasury Department give us an investment update and economic report. Lon Chen, who has been with us previously, who is the senior investment manager of the Trusts and Agencies Division. Casimir Yankov and Andrew Paveleris were also part of the presentation. We got a comprehensive update on economic outlook and the success of our portfolio market. Director Nowack gave us a report on a couple of proposals that are in hand for an economic impact study. And the committee discussed those and believe that an economic impact study is something that the Bridge Authority ought to review and undertake. And a motion was made and passed that the Mackinac Bridge Authority Board consider an economic impact study with a cost not to exceed $77,000. And we bring that forward today for review by the Bridge Authority. The Mackinac Bridge is Michigan's single largest asset. It's an economic engine for northern Michigan. And we've never measured what the impact of the bridge is in the economy in northern Michigan, or in Michigan for that matter. And a study of its economic impact, we think, is in order, and we'll refer that to the authority at large today for discussion and consideration. We had Chief Todd Woods from Mackinac City with us yesterday as well, who made a presentation on their work supporting the Mackinac Bridge Walk and asking for reimbursement for certain expenses that they're incurring. We also had Dr. Don Edwards, who is the head of the Region 8 EMS medical group in northern Michigan, saying that they too are experiencing a lot of overhead in their support of the Mackinac Bridge Walk, and making a request to us that we appropriate some reimbursement for them. The current budget doesn't have line items for reimbursement for either of those, nor for that matter does the economic impact study. But those discussions on reimbursement, the committee believes ought to be deferred until an economic impact study is conducted and the results are in hand, so that we have a better idea of where we stand and what kind of impact we're making on our economy in northern Michigan. So that's the charge that the Finance Committee brings to you, the authority today, for consideration.
Sure. I'm not sure if I heard it correctly, but when you spoke about the cost of the study, I thought you said that should exceed $77,000.
$77,000. Well,
It's actually $87,000.
thank you for the correction. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Well, thank you. I know it sounds like a very lengthy motion, but I think everybody reported on would be condensed into a motion to accept the findings, recommendations from the Finance Committee meeting yesterday to the full Mackinac Bridge Authority today. Correct?
That summarizes it well.
Which would include the economic study, also the request from the two individuals for
Reimbursement.
reimbursement for the Mackinac Bridge Walk. Does everybody understand the full intent of the Finance Committee meeting yesterday and the recommendation? Jim, I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, I just have a question about when the selection, if this all passes, the selection of the consultant would happen, when and how that would happen.
The finance committee wants it before the bridge authority today for consideration and voting to move on one of the two proposals that are in front of the authority.
Trying to speak for the process to choose. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, we would like to, since we would like to get that going, we want to choose between the two.
Correct.
Right.
Was there support to the motion? I'm sorry, I don't think I heard any support.
It's a motion made.
Bill made a motion, yeah. Is there support, Robert?
Yes.
Okay. Being it, first of all, is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, Kim, being that this is the financial matter, would you please call the roll, please?
Chairman Gleason,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken.
Yes.
Director Weaver,
Yes.
Member Fatati,
Yes.
Member Cheeseman,
Yes.
Member Aaron's.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you, Bill. We will now hear from the Chair of the Toll Fees and Classification Committee, Chair Cheeseman. Carolyn.
Before
Oh,
moving on
I'm
to that,
sorry.
the bridge authority needs to review and act upon the finance committee's recommendation
We just did.
to select one of the two proposals that are in front of us
Well,
to move on.
okay. Then you're gonna select, okay, please do.
The proposals are in each of your packets, and we'll presume that you have some familiarity with them. They come from the Anderson Group in Lansing and Public Sector Consulting. We have reviewed them in the Finance Committee, and we welcome any comments from you. I would tell you that from my reading, and I should say that Public Sector Consultants and the Anderson Group were invited to participate by teams remotely yesterday with the Finance Committee. Anderson Group was unable to do so due to personnel conflicts. Public Sector Consulting had 4 members of their team with us for 15 minutes or so and made a presentation and fielded a couple of questions. The Anderson Group proposal would begin with a team's meeting with members of the Bridge Authority to discuss the scope of the work and how to proceed, as opposed to Public Sector Consulting, which proposes an in-person meeting with members of their staff that are in the proposal and members that we would designate to be a part of an economic impact study kickoff. I felt that the Public Sector Consulting proposal was more comprehensive, would give us more data to work with, and reference calls that I made to prior clients that knew both of the organizations. There were no red flags anywhere, but there were a lot more complimentary comments in my conversations on Public Sector Consulting. And my vote would be to vote for Public Sector Consulting to do our economic impact study.
That would be a form of a motion.
And I will so move.
Yes. Is there support to the motion? It's been moved, supported that the Mackinac Bridge Authority enters into a contract for the economic study with Public Sector Consultants. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair, I have a question, since, Kim would be the one working, with them directly. Did you have a preference with either of the two proposals?
I agree with what Bill said, yeah. And Cammy, I asked Cammy to review she also agrees.
Having worked with both, it's nice that both Michigan firms well qualified, so, great.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Chairman Gleason,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Director Weaver,
Yes.
Member Fatati.
Yes.
Member Cheeseman,
Yes.
Member Aaron's.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, and thank you, Bill, for bringing that to my attention. I got 1 second, too far back there. Okay, now we'll hear from the Chair of the Toll Fees Classification Committee, Chair Cheeseman, Caroline.
So the committee was asked to look into the problem of credit card fees and the amount that it's becoming in our budget. And I think our credit card sales in 2023 were around 9.3 million or 9.4 million, and the processing, our credit card sales and our processing fees were 288,000. For the end of 2024, and I believe this is an audited good number, they have risen to $341,761. So that's a lot of money out of the budget every year. And I think there was some thought that the toll's $4, but the people who opt to use credit cards aren't really paying that full fare, and that cash payers are supplementing that. Credit card sales, I think, are up to 12%, almost 13% in 2024. Just for reference, the MacPass users are at 40% and cash is at 44%. But at 12%, that's almost $250,000, and those are likely to continue to go up because there has been a shift to more credit card use. In our discussions, this committee's been looking at this, I would guess, about 2 years, and it started with Tricia Kinley, and many things came up under the discussion. One was that we had traffic backups last summer, and so we were kind of looking at how long transactions took, and that led us down another path. But in short, looking at it, we have a proposal that we think comes under toll clears and fees, or tolls, what's the,
Oh,
all these different areas, tolls, fees, and classifications, I'm sorry. To adjust our MacPass accounts, because that's the fastest way through the toll booths. And I do want to state that we didn't seem to have any backups this summer. But there was a thought that maybe credit cards were causing those backups, but it was apparently staffing. Is that?
That was part of it, and then the US2 project
Yeah.
was different than it was last year, this time, yeah.
So, there also was discussion that we can't have a dedicated MacPass lane because not enough people have MacPass accounts, and they really need the tolls for people who don't have them. So we proposed that we drop the amount to get into a MacPass, the initial fee to $50 from $80, and the amount to refill it from $40 to $20. And that would allow more local commuters to be able to get into the MacPass without having so much of their money tied up. Because that is an issue in our area for local workers. The other thing that we proposed looking at these credit card fees is we found that the American Express card charged much more than all of the other cards. We didn't take that card until COVID, when we took other credit cards, but we didn't take American Express until we had to go cashless and add American Express in. And so we proposed that we stop taking American Express and only take the other cards with lower fees. And the last thing that we looked at in this proposal was to be included in the state contract, because we thought we could realize some savings in being included in their contract instead of having our own contract. And there were some savings. We saw some things might go up a little bit, but overall there was a savings in being part of the state contract. So we recommend, we have a motion to adjust the MacPass accounts to a $50 initial fee and a $20 retail, to stop taking American Express at the toll booths, and to try to be part of the state of Michigan contract. Tammy has looked into that already, and I think that's feasible and does show us some savings. So.
Well, thank you. From what I understood in your closing comments, we have approval from your committee from 50, or excuse me, reduce the initial fee from 80 to 50.
No.
For MacPasses, 80 to 40,
It's 80 to 40.
or 80.
Motion from the meeting minutes, it's
Okay, Cammy's signing it. So it,
For
That-
the hourly initial fee?
80 to 40.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
And then lowering the refill amount, as you said, 50 to 20.
okay, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry, I just wanted. It's been the $10.
So with that being said, so this doesn't get too confusing,
Yes.
can we have that be one motion? Right now,
Read
Yeah.
that motion?
yeah,
Just the max.
just the Mac pass and to renew it would be 20 instead of 40.
Yes.
Right, Barbara?
So I'll make a motion to recommend lowering the fee for opening a personal MacPass account from $80 to $40, lowering the refill amount from $50 to $20, and the discontinuation of accepting American Express cards in the toll lanes, and implementing the savings through the state of Michigan contract with support.
Okay. Perfect.
Discussion.
Okay, discussion.
Does it, can American Express be used to renew the Mac Pass, or is American Express eliminated it entirely?
I think it's eliminated entirely.
It was not really for Mac pass, was it? Or could they use it at the toll booth for Mac?
So they can use it at the toll booth, but not on the road.
Okay,
And it was only changed because of COVID. So American Express was never allowed on the toll lanes only, but due to COVID, we did. And so we're just going back to what we had before.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yes, great clarification. It was not allowed in the methods.
Any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? Kim? Roll call, please.
Chairman Reese,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Director Reaper,
Yes.
Member Patati,
Yes.
Member Cheeseman,
yes.
and Member Aaron's.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Committee has really done a lot of good work on this, and we've still got another leg of it to go.
Yes.
But it was my understanding that we have to enter into a closed session now.
But,
We're okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, well, we're gonna. That last motion, did that cover being, using the state contract?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's one we put it off, yeah.
Okay.
So with that being said, we were going to, based on your
Yes,
presentation, if you want to just bring a little insight to why we have to go into closed session.
the next part, we wanted to go in closed session because we need to get some legal advice, but before it should,
Okay. Based on the use of credit cards,
yes.
to be able to charge the assessment fee. Okay,
So I move that we move into closed session under section 8(1)(h) of the Open Meetings Act to discuss legal advice regarding credit card rules.
Support?
been moved and supported. Is there a discussion on the motion? Kim, if you call the roll.
Member
please.
Reese,
Yes.
Chairman, Vice Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Director Reaper,
Yes.
Member Patati,
Yeah.
Member Cheeseman.
Yes.
Member Aaron's.
Yes.
Motion carried. Let us secure the room again. public session now. The open part of the meeting is 11:12. A motion would be in order to re-enter the public meeting.
We re-enter the public meeting.
Been moved with support that we re-enter the public meeting. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, can I make an amendment to right before the closed session? We did not state a time frame for some of those actions that we voted on. So for trying to implement the savings through the state of Michigan and the MAC pass, we would try to do those as soon as possible, with hopefully having the MAC pass with a goal of December 1st for implementation. And then secondly, the American Express, we want to make sure we did a communication and any adjustments needed, and that would be in effect preferably around January 1st, 2025. So I make a motion to amend that, please.
Support?
Been moved and supported to amend the previous action. Signifying the dates when it would be implemented. Is there any further discussion on the amendment to the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment passed. Thank you. Caroline, did you have any additional information for the committee report?
Just,
Okay,
and we wanted the board to be advised of the legal ramifications of, if any, of the critical.
okay, very good. Thank you. And once again, I want to thank the committee as a whole. You could put a lot of time and effort in that, and Kim and the staff, and it's been a long process, but I think we ended up with a good result. Do your due diligence. Okay, is there any further action to be taken by the board when it comes to credit card fees? Yes, you may.
I'd like to make a motion after much discussion, due to the impact of credit card fees on the fiscal year income that the Bridge Authority receives. And since we have not done a toll increase in many years, we are going to follow precedent of the state of Michigan and using the 2.3% for a convenience fee. And the recommendation would apply that to credit cards across the board, though we will not be accepting American Express.
Would a date be included in that motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Around January 1st, Mr. Chair, 2025 would be.
Okay.
petition.
Is there support for that motion?
I'll support it. With maybe a question.
Yes.
To the sponsor, would you consider revisiting that once we revisit the issue regarding tolls, so that the booking kind of hand in hand?
That's a great question, and I think that would definitely be supported to revisit it. I think the credit card situation has changed quite a bit in the last, 5-10 years, and even more recently. So yes, sir, I think that would be very much appropriate to revisit that at the time of the toll discussion.
So I certainly support Mr. Chair that amendment motion.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Kim, would you take a roll call?
Chairman Reason,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken,
Yes.
Director Weaver,
Yes.
Member Fatante.
Yes.
Member Cheeseman,
Yes,
Member Aaron's.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed unanimously. Okay, under item 8, meeting schedule for 2025. We have some dates we have to look at. Obviously, March 17th is probably not a good date to look at. So and I also like sometimes include March 18th. too. You gotta put a little humor in place. I don't think it can't be always business. So Kim and the director probably start with your schedules in March. What's good for you?
Are there any specific
combination of days you're looking at, Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday? What's the guys?
We usually do Thursday, Friday.
Do Thursday,
Friday
Friday,
doesn't matter.
I can do the sixth, seventh. 13, 14. And the rest would be a little tighter. 6, 7 through 13, 14.
Prefer 13, 14. I would prefer 13, 14. That's.
I would also.
Does that work for you, Kim? About anybody else?
Would you share those dates again, Rex?
March 13th, Thursday, March 13th, and Friday, March 14th.
I'm,
Do you know where it says?
No, that's to be decided too.
I think we, the state police were very kind when we had that
Lansing.
meeting with them. At their headquarters, I think that'd be very informational, or nice history too.
Okay.
If that's agreeable with these, everybody, if we go to Lansing, do it right there at their headquarters.
Do you want to do both the finance committee and full meeting at state police, or do you want to do like the finance at their center or something?
Did they offer us they offered us a tour, but I don't remember them
Yeah.
offering us.
Well, I think if, it would have, if it's open 14th, it'd probably be open 13th, or if not, we can just do it.
Yeah, it was very
Yeah.
close,
So
so.
we can be flexible and say Lansing's at that time, and we can work on
Yeah.
whether or not it's at one of our facilities, or
Yeah.
it'd be great, I think it'd be great if things take place.
Okay, the motion would be in order to, schedule the meeting in Lansing, the 13th and 14th of March.
I move that we hold a March 13, 14 meeting in Lansing next year.
Sport.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion on the 13th and 14th of March? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the July meeting. Mackinac Island, the 8th and 9th of July. Does that work for everybody at this point in time?
That is set by the hotel.
Yeah, that's true. So a motion would be in order then. I'm sorry, here, I'm,
Nothing I can move out in July 8th.
okay, motion would be in order, 8th and 9th of July, Mackinac Island.
I move May 8 and 9 on Mackinac Island for our meeting next year.
It's been supported. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I said May, July.
Oh, July, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. November. First week of November, or last week, or October to start looking at for openers.
I could probably do, what would be the state transportation commission meetings, that's it, yes. Let me look real quick. Just got that. There it is. Yeah, November 6th, the morning of November 6th is the State Transportation Commission meeting. And I'll be present at, but I could do that week, that 6th, 7th. And pending location, then the finance committee has it.
Is it okay on the 6th and 7th then for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay,
Do we have a location for that one?
No, we're looking for suggestions.
I will say that if you want to come back to St. Ignace, we have a new hotel in town. I believe Marty's been to it. I don't know if anyone else has, but I checked with them and they would definitely, they're normally, well, they don't really have a normal schedule yet. But this year, summer was the year season. And they closed the middle of October, but he's definitely interested in hosting the Mackinac Bridge Authority. And they have closed for, to have weddings and rehearsal dinners, so they will do food as well. They also, they bought the local coffee shop and they have meeting space in there as well as at the hotel. I'll just throw that.
okay, well, then follow, I would like to make a suggestion about the meeting place. I always thought the best place to look at the Mackinac Bridge in St. Ignace is at the golf course that's owned by the city of St. Ignace. And in the past, I've always talked about that with the mayor of St. Ignace, and he said, yeah, it would work out good, because normally you don't have much going on. The only time it might be closed a lot earlier would be if winter comes a lot sooner. The last couple of years, I'm sure it will be able to be. Boy, what a beautiful setting. I'm sure everybody's been in there, most of you, but it's just a nice place to have that bridge in the background and have your meetings. If it works out.
We do have an office in St. Ignace too.
Well, yeah, but we've done that several times in St. Ignace.
We could use the office as a backup.
Yeah. I would just think it's a nice way to reach out to them.
Okay.
But if you do get a big crowd at the meetings, the office at St. Ignace is pretty small.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the table to at least schedule the meetings on the 6th and 7th of November. Location to be determined, but it will be in St. Nicholas. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Any other business to come before the authority by members of the authority? If not, anybody from the public wishing to address the Mackinac Authority? Anybody from the public? Hearing none, a motion would be in order to adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
Been moved, supported that the Mackinac Bridge Authority meeting be adjourned. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone.